All right. Today we're going to talk about AFWERX Challenge, SpaceWERX Challenge. How do we submit a proposal to something like this? What is this? What kind of funding are we looking at here? I'm going to look at this government contracting opportunity in real time with you, and I'm going to walk through exactly what it is, where you go to submit, what you actually have to do as far as things like compliance are concerned, and answer any questions that you have. So should be a good session here, and also one that's looking at an actual real opportunity. So even if this manufacturing challenge, which is what AFWERX put out here, even if this doesn't apply to your business, it'll be good for you just to kind of see the steps involved in, hey, how do we actually look through, in this case, SBIR, what is the SBIR process? What kind of websites are you using? Rick, what are your best practices? What have you done before? I'm not associated with AFWERX or SpaceWERX, just so you're aware. But I am a former government acquisitions officer. I managed over $82 billion in contracts for the U.S. Air Force. I was a program manager. I was a flyer before that. And now I run a GovClose, where I train people to sell to the government, training sales executives. And it's really blossomed into an amazing program. They're working in industry, public sector, working with big companies, small companies, developing tech. So why don't we get right into it here? All right. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen here. So again, we're talking AFWERX Challenge today, but really what AFWERX Challenge is, for those that are walking, we're really talking about an SBIR. So once you sort through what this actual opportunity is, you'll see that if you qualify, if you have a product solution that is a fit for this, you're actually going through the SBIR proposal process, and it's a direct to phase 2 SBIR, if I read that correctly. All right. And for anybody that is on the live stream today, I'm just going to throw a test here in the comments just to make sure you guys can hear, see me. Let me know if there's any issues, and I will adjust accordingly. I'm going to present my screen here now. All right. Here we go. AFWERX Challenge. What is it? And you guys, I'll zoom in on this a little bit here. So first, let me just start by, when I'm doing any type of business development, lead gen for client, selling to the government, and for a company, if I'm a sales executive, consultant, there are a variety of places that I'm going to go. And we've talked about that in some of the live broadcasts that we've done here over the past couple of weeks. In some cases, you're going to sam.gov. In some cases, you're looking at acquisitions forecasts, right? And especially if I'm working with a technology, a company that has anything that's innovative, now I'm also looking at things like other transaction authority, which we've covered, consortiums. I'm looking at the SBIR.gov website for SBIR opportunities. These are going to be contracts. A lot of people think that they're grants, but we're not talking about grants. SBIR is actually a contract, and it essentially, every organization in the federal government that has a certain amount of RDT&E, or research and development funding, has to contribute to the SBIR fund. And they're looking for innovative businesses, typically a lot of times non-traditional, dual-use technologies, things that can help improve, whether it's the Department of Defense or other federal agencies. So the DoD is not the only one that we are going to see SBIR contracts with. There's also STTR. STTR, usually the big difference there is you either have to be a nonprofit or partnered with a nonprofit. So companies that are going after STTRs are typically, at least in my experience, partnered with a university, something along those lines, so they can meet the requirement. Okay. But remember, the title of this live stream was AFWERX, right? So we could see AFWERX up here. What is it? I'm not going to get too much into what the organization is, because I want to concentrate on the opportunity. But I will go to the AFWERX Challenge website as part of my business development, right? So maybe I am in the process of, you can have to decide for yourself. I might look at it once a week, once every couple of weeks. Typically, by the way, I go through about 10 different websites for these type of opportunities because I'm going to get a little bit more information. And I've been through the AFWERX Challenge also with a client, and it was really great. It was a really great experience. So this can be a way for you to get your foot in the door with the U.S. government. You can see here, there's going to be some metrics. If you go to the website, they'll talk on AFWERX about, look, they launched in 2018. Again, typically these are efforts where they're trying to work a little bit faster, work with innovative companies. They've done 52 challenges. So you're seeing not 152, not 1,052, 52, right? So there's not a ton, right? So usually I'll go in here and I will see 1 or 2 challenges. And again, you just want to maybe put this in your weekly or monthly cross check. And they're also showing about how much money has been invested, right? So 170 million invested. So if there are 52 challenges, 153 contracts. So which means the average contract award was, at least with my simple math, a little bit over $1 million. All right. Look at this: duration from solution submission to prototyping action or contract, on average 6 months. And if you've been following our content, 6 months is really, really good, right? That's really fast for government contract. It can take you up to 2 years to win a government contract, right? Now in here, what I actually want to do is I want to take a look at, I want to know if there's any opportunities that I can engage on, right? And obviously I know that there is, and I posted that in when we put that out there. So taking a look here, look, we've got the manufacturing challenge overview, and I've got the resilient military communication. So these are 2 efforts. For some reason, it's not pulling up the thumbnail. Hey man, government websites, right? Of course, it could be my computer. I got a Mac, and the DoD doesn't use Macs; they use PCs. But this pulled up earlier, so I looked at both of these. One is called the Manufacturing Challenge Overview. The other one they have up here is Resilient Military Communications. I looked at this one already, and it looked like it was past due, so I'm not going to go through that. So if I go to the Manufacturing Challenge, okay, and what I'm doing here is I'm just walking you through exactly how I would do this if I was prospecting right now, if I was training your sales team to do this, or if you're in one of my programs like GovClose, then you're familiar with exactly how to go after some of these opportunities. Bottom line is, we want to either find opportunities early, way before the solicitation, or we want to make sure that we know how the government is investing in a product or solution like we have. So the first thing here is we want to read through this, and we want to make a determination, a go, no go determination as to whether or not my company should even be looking at this, or my client. So some of you listening are going to be sales executives. Some of you will own your own business. Some of you may be engineers. Others have consulting companies, and you're helping clients. So you may have multiple clients, right? And I certainly do, and have since I left the military as an acquisitions officer. And so your client, you can go through this and review the specifications, see if it makes sense. So let's take a look at those specs. There's a video here. I'm not going to play that, but essentially it says they're launching this manufacturing challenge to build more resilient domestic supply chains and advanced manufacturing capabilities for defense. The challenge seeks to modernize defense manufacturing by transforming it from a rigid legacy system into a flexible, interconnected, innovative, driven ecosystem. This, to me, coming from this community, seems very, very broad, except to say that they want the manufacturing, domestic manufacturing capability to increase and to be faster, right? They don't want a rigid legacy system. They want a flexible, interconnected, innovation-driven ecosystem. Because remember, especially in federal acquisitions, it takes so long to make purchases and make changes that by the time we buy a weapon system or we build a weapon system, it's often the technology is obsolete because things are moving so fast today. But even 20, 30 years ago, it was that case because it takes so long. So this is again one of the ways the government, in this case the DoD, is trying to speed things up. And so now they're looking in this case for manufacturing technologies, solutions, et cetera. Now, we need to know the specifics because that's way too broad. I need to know if my company can actually engage on something like that. So, of course, you would watch the video if you were really serious about engaging on something like this. Here are your objectives. So, okay, so now we're getting more specific, right? Don't try to force what you have into this. Don't waste your time. We want to take the information that's provided first and see if this makes sense for us. So they want to accelerate production timelines. So, okay, faster. They want to improve connectivity. Well, they want everything's connected these days, right? So we want a connected environment. And hold on 1 second here. I think there we go. And they want to unlock untapped potential of small business. Okay, so but unlocking the untapped potential of small businesses is pretty much what the entire SBIR program is about. And if you're just joining here, we're looking at AFWERX Challenge, which is a direct to phase 2 SBIR submission, if you read it to the end. So a small business innovative research proposal. And there are some caveats to this, right? So there are some prereqs besides that go beyond just you have a solution that could solve one of these problem sets. So we're going through it right now, figure out if this is something for us. This is the first thing I do. I go through first the topics. Does that initial topic make sense for my company? And then I want to go through the specifics and see, okay, am I wasting my time or can I submit here? Now, and by the way, usually these direct to phase 2s, you're looking at $1 or $2 million. I don't know what's going to be in this case. We may discover that as we go through here. Okay, so their listing, and this is what I really want. The list of capabilities and technologies provided should not be considered comprehensive. We're open to additions. Okay, so they're looking beyond the listed considerations, but are listed technologies. But it's probably a really good place to start, right? And if I was going to submit something beyond what they have listed here, I would be reaching out to somebody just to make sure, because I don't want to waste my time. I don't want to waste their time. So who should participate? Industry, academia, investing, and government. Okay, they encourage teams. Great. Working partners. What do you stand to gain? Well, it has a lot of things listed here, but essentially you're going to be getting, whether it's prototyping dollars, development funding, introductions to people in the Department of Defense that could potentially, help bring your technology along. And one nice thing, typically with SBIR funding, is you keep your IP. It's usually designed for dual use. But we'll keep taking a look here and see. Now this part is interesting. Okay, so I mentioned there's some additional parameters with this, right? So it's not just, hey, my business is a good fit, my product or solution's a good fit, and now I can make a proposal submission. This says that, here, let me actually zoom in on that. All applications must include a Government Engagement Memorandum that confirms support from a valid DAF customer. What's a DAF customer? Within one of the following organizations. Okay, now they're getting to define that. And all of these, so these are not the end user. These are the acquisitions offices that are going to put this on contract for the end user. So they want you to have a form filled out by either PEO, Weapons, Armament Directorate, Strike Division, PEO, Office Fighters and Advanced Aircraft, AFRL, Materials and Manufacturing, so that stands for Air Force Research Lab, AFWERX Prime. Okay, so that's pretty important because you got a you got a proposal that's due July 9th, right? So just a little over a week. And not only would you have to write a SBIR proposal, but you need to have this government memorandum. Now, I just clicked on this just to give you an idea of what this looks like. It's just they're standardizing what a normal memorandum of support would be. This actually isn't too far out of the way. If you're going to a phase 2 SBIR, by the way, if you guys aren't familiar with the SBIR process, usually it comes in phases. Usually phase 1 is going to be a $150,000 ish. And of course, there's definitely a lot of there's variation for every single one of these, right? But it's usually a low dollar, and they're usually not, a phase 1 is typically you not developing something or modifying something. A lot of times it's more analysis, it's more of a report. But in reality, as far as you're concerned as a company, that phase 1 is you're almost getting paid to just find somebody in the government to sponsor the technology, the product, the solution that you're providing. You want to find as many people actually, and if in this case it's AFWERX and SpaceWERX. So you want Air Force, Space Force. Typically, it's the user. You can get user support. They would sign a memo or a letter of support or something. During that phase 1 is a good place, a good time to find those people that can support your technology, your solution. But that's not what they want here. Okay. What they're asking for here is the acquisitions shop. Okay. At least that's what I'm gleaning from this so far. So let's just take a look at this form. So difficult to do this in 2 weeks. Okay. So you want to find, it would have been better to find out about this a couple of weeks ago when it first dropped, but you may have contacts already. If you're doing proper business development, you have relationships. So you should have, and if you do, then you could potentially bring this form to them. Now, also understand that there's bureaucracy involved with these acquisition shops, which I worked in. I worked in one of them. Mine was Air Force acquisition shop. And even though we were a rapid tech development shop and we could do things quickly, getting a signature, that could take a couple weeks, could take a month, could take a couple days, just depends, right? So you might know someone that can force that through. Now it's giving us, okay, so the organization, see, it says right here, the organization responsible for procuring the solution for the end user. So they want the acquisitions office essentially supporting you here. So those are the people that are going to be doing the work. They're going to have the authority to put a company on contract. So that's what a contracting officer would have. They're the only ones that are warranted and can commit funds on behalf of the U.S. government. Then you have a program manager. That's who you'd probably be working with. They're typically going to be working with the companies. They'll have the program plan, matching requirements to requirements and funding, essentially, but making sure everything is executed appropriately. And there's a variety of other folks as well, engineers, finance people. So you get your subject there. You got your statement. I'm not going to go too far into this except to say that you would need a signature here, and it has everything they want you to fill in. So there you go. Now, I'm going back again. If you're just joining us here, we're in the Manufacturing Challenge AFWERX website. So we're trying to decide, is this something that makes sense for us? Are we going to want to submit our proposal to this, even though it's called AFWERX Challenge, SBIR direct to phase 2? Now, at least that's where they're accepting their proposals. It tells you who should participate. It's telling you who is, and these are the only people they want you to get the signatures and memos from what I can see here. I could dive a little bit more into that. There's also this regulatory compliance form. I'm not going to click on this, but that's something you're going to need to, if you want to submit, make sure that you go through that and that you are compliant. Now, how do you submit? It says here, this requires a completed submission using SBIR, STTR website. So that's a Small Business Innovative Research website. But it's actually, this actually sends you to DSIP. So for anybody that is actually familiar or has submitted an SBIR before, the DoD has their own submission site, and it has its own peccadillos. And they're telling you here you can submit between June 4th and July 9th, 12 p.m. Now, I will tell you this, you do not want to wait until July 9th at 12 p.m. because this is what happens. First of all, you need to register, and you want to do this way in advance on DSIP. But on this day, I can guarantee you when the day comes where everything's due, because often it's not just one SBIR that's due. A lot of times these topics are all due at the same time. That DSIP site, my experience with that site is that it crashes all the time or slows down. So if you're waiting to the last day and you're trying to submit a proposal, then it may not go through. And I am live down here, so I want my kids to know that they cannot come down here and interrupt me, but that's exactly what they're going to do. So we've got, let's see, their webinar series here that you could have gone to and viewed if you got it in time. And hold on one second here. We've got the virtual collaboration section or session, and you could have registered for that, but I already clicked on that, and that actually was a few days ago. So now we need to go up here and see where can I actually look at some of the specifications. Luckily, I already brought it up. Nope, that's the SBIR website. Okay, and hold on one second here. Hold on one second.
After going through the course, I was able to land a client that pays me a monthly retainer to actually help them develop their business and go after these federal contracts.
I was able to get a consulting gig with a software company that currently works with the intelligence community.
Within 2 months, I had my first client. So the initial contract was for a 3-month contract for $4,000 a month.
So 27 years old, you've never worked in government contracting, you've never worked as a consultant, and you just closed your first deal, is that correct?
That's fair. And I've got a couple small projects on the side as well. So definitely something, probably my best investment I've made all year.
A cold call landed a 9-figure government contract.
Start a consulting business and a high salaried position as a account executive in public sales. So you're doing both of those things.
I'm living the best of both worlds right now.
So my name is Mike Knickerbocker. I am a naval officer that's getting ready to retire. Right now, I have 3 firm clients and 2 more perspectives. I'm able.
I'm back. Small crisis with the children, folks. So don't mind me there. I just put the ad on just so you didn't have to listen to me parenting. So now I want to look at let's recage ourselves here. Look at the manufacturing challenge. I was going through the different things you have to do to submit. What are we looking at for go, no go? I want to know as much as I can about this. What are going to be the stumbling blocks or the roadblocks for me submitting? The big one here, if I know that my solution meets something within this, the big thing is that form that you're going to get signed by the acquisition shops. That can take a long time. You need to be aware of that. That's not just a one and done, but they give you the contacts so you can potentially set up a call, talk to them, see if you can get a sponsor if you don't have the relationship already. I just clicked on specifications. Okay. So this is really big. And the reason that this is important is because this is actually going to dive into the actual areas that they want or they are asking for submissions on. Now, they did say that you could submit beyond these, but typically they're there for a reason. My experience is I usually have a pretty good idea of what we're looking for. I could be off here, right? They could be looking for something. Maybe there's something that your company is doing that they just have no idea about. And yep. Thanks, John. John's on. So we've got, I'm going to just go through some of the areas here, just so we're on the same page. So they're looking at engine production with additive manufacturing, advanced composite structures, semiconductor, this is huge, semiconductor production innovations, radiation tolerant hardened electronics, systems integration and interoperability, affordable energetics. And that's, again, to me, pretty broad. Pretty broad. But they are talking a little bit more with a little bit more specificity down here. I mean, this is a lot. So really, it's pretty broad. This is going to be open to a lot of different companies submitting proposals. So when you do get to the DSIP website for submitting your SBIR proposal, you do not wait till the last day. I have a feeling that there's going to be a lot of companies potentially engaging on this. Well, let's just take a look. So for engine production, digital twins, that's huge. Additive manufacturing, advanced robotics for engine component production. I mean, this all makes sense for assembly for aircraft, spacecraft, other flying systems. This kind of aligns to with, not kind of, this aligns with what we've been hearing from SecDef and from the new administration about, the United States industrial base, bringing manufacturing back to the States, and also the investment that the DoD is planning on making in industrial manufacturing and defense companies here, to the tune of trillions, is what SecDef said in a recent, I say recent, press conference. It was over a month ago. So advanced composite structures, advanced fiber placement, joining methods for aerospace. So a lot of the manufacturing stuff here, automation of composite manufacturing. We hear a lot about semiconductors today, chips involved, advanced, and they're targeting semiconductor manufacturing, equipment, materials to improve device performance, reduced cost. So you can see here where they're starting to give you at least a little bit more detail right now. Typically and I'm going to show you where the submissions are, where the SBIR information is, and there's going to be some more information there as well. But what I like to do as a best practice, especially with SBIRs, is I like to talk to the technical point of contact that is in charge of that particular SBIR topic. Sometimes you can ask them questions. Sometimes that's somebody that's in a specific office that can give you a little bit more information than you're going to see in this. And that's really what I'm after. I want to know who's using it, what's really driving it. These are answers that you may not get these are questions you may not get answers to, but I think essential to know, A, am I wasting my time or not? B, how can I use that information to write a better proposal that's actually going to resonate with the person reviewing it, right? Versus some general white paper that you're just, it's almost like throwing a dart and with a blindfold on. Am I actually going to hit something? Affordable energetics. What is that? Innovations in synthesis, processing, formulation of energetic materials for propulsion systems. Novel low-cost materials and manufacturing techniques for energetics, cases or containers for missile systems. Okay, so you guys are getting the gist here, right? Now, you'll notice participation in this challenge requires a completed submission using the SBIR STTR website. Okay, so let's take a look at that. For those of you who aren't familiar, I talked a little bit about DSIP before, allow it to. Now, this is, okay, for you, let me zoom in on it here so you can see it. If you've ever looked into SBIRs, this may not be the website that you have gone to traditionally. What you may have seen, let's go over here. Oh, this is the memorandum you got to have filled in order to submit. But you may have gone to SBIR.gov. So I just want to highlight the differences. Okay. Now here is the official SBIR website, SBIR.gov. But that is not where AFWERX was pointing you. AFWERX pointed you at DSIP, okay, DSIP, which if you go in here and you find military or Department of Defense related SBIRs, again, small business innovative research. I'm not going to go like super in depth on SBIR, STTR here. I have done many videos on this. And by the way, we've interviewed many of my clients that have won multiple SBIRs. I've even done complete videos that you can find on YouTube, maybe on LinkedIn, on companies that I didn't work with that built a huge business off of SBIR and STTR contracts. It's great for these newer technologies, innovative technologies, stuff like that. If you can win the contract, right? But once you kind of learn the metric, you could certainly do it. But again, a lot of folks that are engaging with SBIR, right? So remember, we started off with AFWERX, but then we quickly realized that the AFWERX submission is actually an SBIR contract. And they didn't send us here to the SBIR website. Where they sent us was DSIP. And so again, this, if you are interested in this, or you don't have to be interested in this one, like any SBIR, there's a lot of different SBIR topics, right? But register, get your SBIR account, your DSIP account now, way ahead of time. You want to be registered ahead of time, and you do not want to make this submission on the day it's due, because this website crashes. It's crashed for me, my clients, or just slowed down, meaning so many people are trying to submit their proposals on the day it's due that you just might not get it through. So just know that. Okay, so here we are, DSIP, as I refer to it, DSIP. And here is what the AFWERX website was advertising. This is a direct to phase 2. So we now know more information. A direct to phase 2 call for innovative defense-related dual-purpose manufacturing technology solutions with a clear Air Force and Space Force stakeholder need. That's, again, they restated it. There has to be a clear Air Force and Space Force stakeholder need. That's why they want you to get that form signed, right? They want to make sure that, like, you might have an amazing solution and you might think that there's a stakeholder, meaning there's a military warfighter need for what you have. But thinking, or you saying that there's a need, is not even close to the same thing as the government saying, or somebody on the military side saying, yes, it is a need. And further, they want the acquisition shop to declare that that's a need. So they want to know that it's not just the, good idea fairies coming in here and making solutions. It has to be a good idea paired with the fact that the military actually needs it. And by the way, this is the same thing in sales. I mean, if you're in sales, every business is sales. You can have a good idea, but you don't really know if it's a good idea. You don't really know until you can get somebody to actually give you money for it. All right. I talk about this in GovClose all the time. A lot of our guys are consultants and they have good ideas for how they're going to help companies sell to the government. But a lot of times the companies know what they need, and you'll know if your niche is needed or not by if a company will pay you for it. Often a good idea won't even get the time of day. So, sometimes we're just too close to our ideas and our technology. So we need to make sure that there's actually a stakeholder need. I'm going to click on this now. All right. So you can see what happens here is we see a drop down, and within here, this is giving us a little bit more. I think most of this we already know. It's giving you the objective, but I can download this PDF or a working doc to get the topic details, right? So I could do that here. It'll download the file, see up there. But also it's going to, I thought I could actually scroll down, but I guess not. Here are the solicitation instructions. So this is going to be pretty important. I don't see any Q&A. Sometime, well, maybe. Let me check. No, nothing. No. So the solicitation instructions. Now this is what's really going to give you the direction on how you're going to submit this and what's required, right? Because a lot of times what people are really interested in here is how do I even put a proposal together for an SBIR, STTR, whatever. Let's see here. And then I got some comments coming in. And within here, this is giving us a little bit more. I think most of this we already knew. It's giving you the objective, but I can download a PDF or working. Yep. Same. Yeah, I think we already knew most of that. In fact, I did download. We can go through that potentially. Oh yeah, the download. We only saw a little bit of what was in there in the preview, but the download is at least 4 pages. It's 6. It looks like it's 6 pages long. So that would that is going to give you a lot more information. This is typically these instructions that I just clicked on. Typically, what these are going to cover are multiple topics, but they're going to give you the details for how you're going to and what you're going to include in your submission. So this talks about a 3-phase program. It's talking broadly, right? So don't get confused. If you get into the SBIR instructions and you're reading through it and it doesn't look like it is specific to that AFWERX topic that we were talking about, it's not going to be. There may be a page in here that says, hey, this is included also, but this is where you're going to go to figure out, how do I actually make a submission? So this will probably cover some different types of submissions. Like it might cover a SBIR phase 1, and it might cover SBIR phase 2. It might talk about what SBIR phase 3 is. This is talking about a 3-phase program. I wouldn't be surprised if the 3 phases it's actually talking about are SBIR phase 1, 2, and 3. Here we go. It's talking about your DSIP submission, deadlines. Okay, so now we're starting to, again, I'm just in the index here, but you're starting to get an idea of what is going to be included. We've got a proposal cover sheet, right? We've got a technical volume, so tech volume. That's pretty standard, even if you're submitting a regular proposal to the government, responding to an RFP. You've got a cost volume. You've got a company commercialization report. Okay, so if you're not familiar with that, you need to, and by the way, you should be reviewing all of the details for this, but we could see this is not something that you're going to put together in 5 minutes, right? This is, you're going to put work in here. That's why it's so important to really go through what are the requirements and am I a good fit for this, right? So I don't like just throwing stuff against the wall and seeing if it sticks when it comes to government contracting. It's too much work involved. I like to know that, yes, we are an amazing solution here. Yes, the government wants the solution. Okay, now let's go through this and put this together, because there's a lot here, right? You've got supporting documents. You got this fraud, waste, and abuse training, right, which you'll have to take. You have disclosures. For some companies, this last piece is a lot of work. Disclosures of foreign affiliations, relationships, right? What is that telling me? I get a lot of questions from, companies saying, hey, I want to partner with a company overseas, or I'm hiring my staff and they're in a different country. Well, look, when we're talking about especially Department of Defense technologies and solutions, anything that's going to hook up to a network, you can almost be guaranteed of, there are going to be precautions built into solicitations that talk about whether or not there can be any type of foreign ownership. There may be, it may preclude anything like that. In fact, a lot of bigger companies that have foreign ownership, they'll set up a U.S. only entity to protect, the information and different things that they're doing, just in order to meet some of these parameters. All right. Export control technologies. Okay, so this is going to go through a lot of different things. Some of these may or may not apply to you. It talks about classified proposals, but I told you this is kind of a generalized instructions for how we are going to submit our SBIR proposal. And remember, this has to go through DSIP, but you need to read through all of these sections here to make sure that you're not going to be violating anything. You want to make sure that your proposal actually can win. Okay, so if up till now we have decided that, yes, one of the 6 topic areas for the AFWERX manufacturing topic is something that, we have a technology that can meet, one of those, we think it would be good. If we think that we also, maybe because you've been actively engaged with one of the acquisitions offices they mentioned, or you just reach out and see if you can get a meeting, or, if they'd take a look at what you're doing, to see if it would fit. You don't want to skip this step. First of all, it's a requirement. You have to have this memo signed by an acquisitions office. The other thing is if they can look at what you're doing and say, hey, I don't think this is really it, you just saved yourself a ton of work for nothing, right? You don't want to go through all of this work and then be told at the end that, sorry, great idea, but we're not going to fund that. You might be able to find this out up front. So I try to eliminate each of these opportunities as fast as possible. And if I get a yes, and yeah, we'll sign the form, I'm going to keep going, right? If I can get a meeting and get a little bit more information, then I will, as long as it's legal to do so, right? Okay, look, this goes through a lot of different things. By the way, but I don't talk about this too much. Termination for convenience. Oh, look at that. Popped it right up. Did you know the government can terminate any contract for convenience at any time? They're as Colonel Orndorff would say, they are the 2,000-pound gorilla in the room. But here's the thing. For anyone out there, if the government does terminate your contract for convenience, I know I'm going down a rabbit trail here, but it may help some of you. Just because the government terminates your contract, and they have a right to do so, does not mean you're not getting paid for any of that. In fact, we had a client that, this is a couple of years ago, but she had a contract with the U.S. Navy, and she showed up, put in a lot of work, a ton of work, like doing site surveys, hiring teams. She showed up on day one of the job, and the government contracting officer showed up and said, pay termination for convenience. And she spent a lot of money. She had flown out there. I believe they were stationed or they were located in Hawaii. Either way, we went back and using just understanding how the government contracting system works, we're able to, correspond with the contracting officer. She got about half of the contract value, even though they didn't perform any of the work, which she needed because she had to get reimbursed for her efforts there. Let's see. Hi, Rick. What is the proposal number again? I'm trying to find it on the DSIP website. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Nope. Here we go. If it's AFX 255 DPC S06. If you can see that. And I'll also, because if you joined late, I was showing how I actually usually go through depending on what company I'm doing work for, I'll go through the AFWERX websites. I'll go through the AFWERX Challenge websites. And so there'll be information on those sites as well as the SBIR and the DSIP websites. Often just a little bit more information. They have videos there. They have places for you to sign up for webinars, maybe potentially get some questions answered. So we've already gone through that. So we've gone through the AFWERX sites. We went through the memos that are required to have signed. And that led us to DSIP, right, where we saw where the actual SBIR topic is. That's where we actually discovered this is a SBIR phase 2, direct to phase 2. Usually with a SBIR, you do a phase 1, you win that, and then you apply for a phase 2 after. But in a phase 2, it can be a couple $1 million. It could be more, it could be less. I don't know what this one's going to be, but if you have a SBIR direct to phase 2, that means you don't need the phase 1. You can go direct to phase 2. So that's what we're actually looking at here. And we also talked about the fact that, with DSIP, this portal, right? Most people are used to going to, if they're going after SBIRs and they've won them, a lot of people are used to going after SBIRs on the SBIR.gov site. I would bet this is listed there, but for most DoD submission, they're going to want you to submit through DSIP, and we want to make sure that we create an account here, and we want to not submit the day it's due. I've said that 15 times already, but yeah, if you wait till the day it's due, you may find that the whole site's not working, or that you have a really hard time getting that uploaded by the date that and actually it's not just July 9th. I think they said 12 p.m. Eastern Standard, maybe. When we clicked on the solicitation instructions, that's where we're really getting the details for how to put our proposal together. Let's talk about some of the best practices here. First of all, like there's a lot in here. I just went through just some of the requirements that are in the table of contents, but it is more that there's a tech volume, there's a cost volume, there's training that you have to do. There's a lot of things you got to look at to see if you have any foreign ownership, foreign relations. So they're asking a lot of questions, and you want to make sure that you've had time to go through everything, get your DSIP site set up, and make your submission. Now, how do I actually craft something that's going to resonate with the people that are reviewing this, right? Well, if you remember, when we were at the AFWERX site, they want this Government Engagement Memorandum. So this is just a fancy standardized memo for record, essentially. They want to know that there's a need for what you're going to sell. But from me now, from the company, I don't just want this because it's a requirement to submit. I want to know, so they're telling you exactly who's allowed to sign this, okay? A lot of times with SBIR, it's not just the acquisitions office that can sign these. With SBIR, STTR, it is often anyone, any user. And so that's what makes it kind of interesting. Typically, you're not going to the user of something. You know, I'm not going to the flight line mechanic team at a military base to sign a memorandum or to do anything really for acquisitions. I'm going to the acquisition shops. I might be talking with the requirements folks, but with a SBIR, you can do that. And I've done that. I've gone, like we had one signed. We went to MacDill Air Force Base. We had their ops group sign it. But we briefed their maintenance team on a solution. They loved it. Ops group commander signed the form, but they're not letting us do that here. I thought they actually listed the organizations that could sign this on this stakeholder form, but it was all acquisitions. It's on the main website. It was all acquisition shops. Okay. Now let's see here. Stakeholder roles and responsibilities. Where I was really going with this. So this is the government organization electing a TPOC. Okay. Yeah. One of the things that I like to do is I want to know as much as I possibly can about the end user requirement. So even though you are getting this signed by one of the acquisition shops they listed, you want to talk to the program manager and ask them as many questions as possible. And that's how I put these together, right? That's really where I get the bulk of the information. I mean, we saw this. This is so broad. Let me go back to the AFWERX site. By the way, guys, if you're looking for the AFWERX site, just type in AFWERX challenge. It'll pop right up. All right. We've got, a bunch of this here. The challenges, current efforts, manufacturing challenge. Got it? Okay. I wanted to go back here because I wanted to, for anyone that just joined a little bit late, right here, they're telling us all applications must include this Government Engagement Memorandum, which we just looked at, and these are the only shops that can actually sign it. PEO, Armament Directorate, PEO, Fighters and Advanced Aircraft, AFRL Material Manufacturing Directorate, AFWERX Prime. Okay. And if you get them to sign it, if you get somebody to sign it, spend some time asking them. There are so many possible submissions that people could be making, because look at the focus areas, right? There's 6 focus areas, and this is telling you kind of what they're looking for. Now, they did say you could submit beyond this. Digital twin within itself. Digital twins of what? Right? Like, I want to know who's going to be using it. Are Air Force engineers, Space Force engineers? Is this a digital twin where we're making digital twins for training, or is it going to help in the manufacturing process? The advanced robotics for engine component production and assembly for aircraft, spacecraft, other flying systems. Well, what kind of flying systems? Right? These are the questions that I want to ask. Are we talking about, doesn't take a PhD to understand that drones are becoming more and more and more prevalent in warfighting, right? We can see exactly what's going on in Ukraine right now and how important using their drones have been for them. We've seen this go on in the Middle East just recently as well. So these are the questions. And then what kind of drones? Like, so if, again, I'm just giving you an example, right? So if I was involved with advanced robotics for the production of aircraft, spacecraft, other flying systems, and now I'm in one of the PEOs, I'm talking to the PM. Great. Will you sign? Oh, you guys have this process for advanced robotics? Yeah, we'll sign that. That looks good. Okay. But hey, just so I know, I want to know, like, for you guys, can you tell me, like, what are we looking at here? Because I'm sure that this is going to be different depending on building spacecraft versus building drones. If they did say drones, what kind of drones? Are we talking about surveillance? Are we talking about attack? Are they doing something else that I'm not even thinking about? Who's going to be using it? Who's going to be controlling them? Right. How are they going to, is there anything classified going to be in them? Like, I have a million questions, and the more detail that you can get, it helps you, because now it's going to help you write an awesome proposal when you do get to the DSIP website and put that in there. But it's also going to help. It's going to help the government, because now you're really speaking to need, right? So now not only do you have the sponsor, but you're speaking to exactly who's going to be using it. What is it? What's it going to be? What are these robotics used for? You can talk with more specificity about the actual need. And I mean, you could throw maybe whatever it is you have can be involved with, regular aircraft, spacecraft, and you can put that in there too. But you really want to be focused and solve a specific problem when you're putting something like this together. That's been my experience. It may not be yours, but I think that is really the key to putting one of these together and being successful. Now, another thing, in addition to actually speaking with people on the end, the more you can talk to, the better. Now, unless there's something, when I say the more you can talk to, the better, I would have to read through this. But one question I have is, am I only allowed to submit one of these? Right? Because, for a lot of companies, they're like, okay, they're probably going to be nervous just about getting one of these signed. Right. But I want to get multiple ones signed. Like, if I can get multiple offices to sign that, how much more likely am I going to be to really show that what I have, is something that the military needs? Because remember, that's built right into this solicitation. They don't just want solutions. They want solutions that are actively needed by the end user, but they want the program office to actually sign off on it. Where was it again here? Was it on the other page? It's under overview, maybe. Yeah, here it is. All right. So I might go in and I might try to get a memo signed by this PEO, AFRL, and AFWERX. Well, am I going to get all of them? I might get all of them done, but you could try right now. The timeline for this is pretty short. So just keep this in mind when you're looking at some of these other topics, when you're going to submit. I do like to submit multiple forms. Often they're not going to be a digital form like I just saw. Often it'll just be a regular, you'll just type it up in Word. It'll be a memo for record, or memo. Sometimes it's just a letter of support, right? But for my clients, we've often submitted multiple letters of support, multiple memos for record with the submission itself. One of the things too, I'm trying to understand, and this is just the nature of the beast, is I want to understand if they already have somebody in mind for awarding these. I also want to know how many companies can potentially be awarded, right? So if multiple companies are going to be awarded, that's a good sign. If you're talking with the government office and you're getting the sense that this is for a very specific solution, even though this is a broad request, then I would start suspecting that they potentially have a company in mind. I don't know that that's the case for this. It's so broad that they're probably going to have multiple awards. Again, I'm guessing. That's a guess. I don't know. You'll have to call them. But let's just review here. What did we talk about? Well, we talked about AFWERX, and we talked about this manufacturing challenge. We went through exactly what it is, what areas that they're looking at, where you could potentially submit on if you fit in with one of these focus areas. We talked about one big, not roadblock, but requirement, which is getting that form signed, that digital memo for record signed, essentially, or not memo for record, I keep calling it that, but they're calling it the Government Engagement Memorandum. Again, that could take a long time, even if you have contacts over there. There's bureaucracy. I've seen these forms sit on people's desks for a while. So that is something that you need to make sure that you are starting ahead of time. And I would not even think about writing this proposal unless I had this Government Engagement Memorandum either signed or in the process of being signed. This could be the difference between you submitting and not submitting. Let's see here. Do I have to finish my tech volume first? No. Nope. Oh, definitely not. Definitely not. Now, you're going to want to, again, every PEO is going to be different, right? So if you go to one of these organizations and they tell you that they want to see your finished proposal before they'll sign it, then the answer would be yes. But I will tell you, the danger of that is you could write this entire proposal, including the tech volume, and not be able to get anybody to sign this thing. So I would be looking, this would be the first thing I'd be doing, is reaching out, trying to get a meeting with each of those offices to see if they'd entertain signing this. And then if I did get a meeting, uplifting and funny. Yeah. So if I did get a meeting, now I might start putting this together, because now at least I have an indicator. I'm like, all right, well, I've got a shot at getting this thing through. And also starting to, if I've got a meeting with one of those offices, that's a big deal. And if I start writing this entire proposal, that's also going to get me to start strategically thinking about this and looking at all of the requirements. So actually, when I walk into that meeting, if they start hitting me with questions, I'm probably going to be, just by starting this proposal, I'm going to be prepared to answer them. So that's how I would handle it. First, see if you can get that engagement memorandum signed. At least start the process for it. And then if you're starting to make tracks towards, looks like at least you have potential to get that signed, then you might put a little bit more into this proposal. And you can ask them too, like, hey, what do you need to see from us? In fact, I would ask them that. And that can save some time for you. So we talked about that. We talked about the fact that this is actually a SBIR phase 2. It's going to be submitted through DSIP. By the way, all these AFWERX challenges are not necessarily SBIR phase 2s. In fact, I've been through one where it was just putting a briefing together, and it got you a spot in a AFWERX challenge sponsored kind of almost like a closed conference, where you were going to, a select number of companies were going to present their solutions to decision makers and to program managers. So in that case, I wouldn't have to go through this. This might be something you go through later or not at all. But in this case, DSIP, set up your DSIP account. We talked about how important it is to set this up ahead of time and to not wait till the last minute for submitting your proposal, because everybody does, and it's this system sucks and it could crash the day of. Often does. Maybe they made some improvements since I was last involved with this, but I doubt it. And we also went through some of the instructions for how you submit a SBIR proposal. Some of the sections, right? You can see here, talks about proposal cover sheet, tech volume, cost volume, commercialization report, supporting documents. You want to read through all these: fraud, waste, and abuse training, disclosure of foreign affiliations, right? It goes into if you were going to submit a classified proposal, and I'll let you read through some of these and see what works. But you want to read through everything, just get a good idea of what's going to be required and how much of a lift it's going to be. It's not fast. Government proposals aren't fast. This one's not going to be fast. If you want a shot at winning, it's got to be precise and thorough. So that's it, guys. That's that AFWERX topic. That's a little bit of my experience with AFWERX, some of the best practices that I've had with SBIR, and meeting with people ahead of time, talking with them, some of the questions that I ask. Is this going to be a multiple award, multiple companies winning? Who is the end user? Like, get as specific as much as you can ahead of time, because everything's not going to be in the solicitation. Then you can write your proposal specific to the solution. Also, I would say, if you are, whenever you write a government proposal, don't assume one person is going to, or however many people are going to review it, don't assume that they're going to have the whole proposal to review. Now, maybe they will, maybe they don't, but in a lot of bigger proposals, they get cut up and different people will have different sections to review. So if there's information in the intro or the executive summary or in the maybe a past performance section that is needed to have a comprehensive understanding of each of the sections as they're reviewing it, then you need to treat each section so it's standalone. So hopefully that gives you guys something here. Great. All right. Well, hey, have a great rest of your week. Send any questions my way. We'll keep doing these live streams, and we'll see you next time. Cheers.
After going through the course, I was able to land a client that pays me a monthly retainer to actually help them develop their business and go after these federal contracts.
I was able to get a consulting gig with a software company that currently works with the intelligence community.
Within 2 months, I had my first client. So the initial contract was for a 3-month contract for $4,000 a month.
So 27 years old, you've never worked in government contracting, you've never worked as a consultant, and you just closed your first deal. Is that correct?
That's fair. And I've got a couple small projects on the side as well. So definitely something, probably my best investment I've made all year.
A cold call landed a 9-figure government contract.
Start a consulting business and a high salaried position as a account executive in public sales. So you're doing both of those things.
I'm living the best of both worlds right now.
So my name is Mike Knickerbocker. I am a naval officer that's getting ready to retire. Right now, I have 3 firm clients and 2 more perspectives. I'm able to provide value across different industries because the skill set that I learned through the course, I was able to apply my own experience.
GovClose came, and it was a no-brainer. I wanted some secret sauce.
This has allowed me to live in Germany. It's a little hazy today, but we can do that. You see?
Oh yeah, dude, that's beautiful.
The content, the training, it's invaluable. It's written.
And Deb, what motivated you to join the GovClose certification program?
Wow. Well, I think that wanting to work with a leader in the field, someone who understands government contracting on a deep basis and has the reputation, the experience working with you and your company was a natural.
The students that graduate our program, they go on to start their own consulting firms, winning high dollar consulting clients. They go on to land high-paying salaried positions as account executives with companies that sell to the government. I'm so proud of the people that have gone through our program. And if you are considering either a job or a business, and by the way, some of our students are doing both, as I did. They're running a consulting business and they'll have an account executive job. It's transforming their lives. It's bringing true wealth to them and their families. Back to the video.